Hi guys, this is Vidas.
And Usha.
Let's start episode 125 of Ask Vidas and Osha podcast. And this question was sent by Peter. He writes, quick answer: lack of times and wasting time on other things, and lack of willpower. He writes further, and I think I need to improve my sight reading if I'm going to improve my overall organ playing. Also, I hate most modern organ music. On this subject, it might be interesting if you could explain in one of your blogs what anybody sees in sour-sounding, discordant modern music. You know, the kind of mean where you are not sure if the player is making lots of wrong notes or is this what it is supposed to sound like. Many high competent professionals like this kind of music, but why? One such person said to me, it's probably more satisfying to play than to listen to. In that case, why play it to an audience? Never said, well, I like it and I'm going to play what I like. He meant in a recital. Is it any wonder that the organ is right at the bottom of the pile in popularity with the general public? Where I live, if we get an audience of 40 to a recital, that's very good. Usually it's 20 or under. The idea is dying on its feet, and a lot of it has to do with the kind of music people play, as well as the way in which they play it. There is another topic for discussion: how is it that some people can play all their pieces absolutely accurately and the performance is dull and boring, and someone else plays with a few mistakes, but it's exciting and attractive? Music certainly is fascinating as a subject. I think you may agree with me that the basic purpose of music, any music, is to create emotion in the mind of the listener. But if that emotion is one of irritation, annoyance, and unpleasantness, why would anyone want to repeat the experience? It makes no sense. It's a complex question, right,
Well,
Osha?
yes, very broad one.
In general, I think Peter struggles with modern music comprehension, probably, and discovering the beauty of it.
Yes, that's a tricky question to answer because the term modern music is so broad. There are so different types of music in this modern organ music.
There is no longer a mainstream.
Yes, that's right. So it's very hard to describe. But I guess with the modern music a problem is probably too many dissonances.
Dissonances which people don't know how to handle in their
Yes.
mind. They don't know what they mean. They don't feel the resolution of the dissonances. Or maybe composers don't resolve them
Yes.
anymore.
And of course, another trouble with modern music that, some of it actually just lost the form of it. And it's very hard to listen sometimes to a music which has no shape. Not like sonata form where you have like two subject, main subjects, when another subject, and then you have all that exposition, and then you have remodeling themes, and then after that in reprise we come back. And when you have like clear subject, you can refer to it all the time, even in fugue. I don't think very many listeners appreciate fugue so much, but still, because you have a subject and it appears over and over again, it makes fugue bearable to listener.
Good term, making fugue bearable.
Well, okay, and even listen Bach's Art of Fugue, it's a hard work, of course, and you can, the more appreciate the such type of music, the better you know it. So, if you go to a concert where you know that the modern music will be on the program, I suggest you to do some research yourself if you want really to appreciate it. Maybe, to find a score or, to listen to a recording on a YouTube, if that's possible. Or at least, maybe you will find a story how that piece was written. Because sometimes understanding what the composer felt at that particular moment of this particular composition may, light it in another, light, and you may understand it better.
And sometimes it's a problem of communication, right? Performers don't make an effort to introduce the music to the audience, either in spoken form or in text as program notes. So less experienced concert goers don't know what to think during such a dissonant performance.
Yes, and I think another problem is that so much music is written already that, new composers, we try to do something differently, but actually it's, hard to find something different and do something differently, because as I said, there were 700 of years of organ music, so it's very hard to find something new. So sometimes we want to do it as horrible as possible to make it sound new.
I think originality is a complex question. Everyone wants to be original, but everything was created before, right? We just repeat the history in a new way, perhaps. So the best way to be original actually is to combine old things, several things, not one, but several things, in a new and unexpected way, and then you will be original.
Well, and composers did that time after time in the history, if you would look back. It's sort of, for example, like romantic composers, we, got inspiration not from classical music that was just before, romantic period, but from the Baroque period. And what the classicals did, they, found their inspiration not in Baroque music, but in a Renaissance music, which was prior Baroque period. So, and we took some things of those old times and put some new ideas into them, and it worked fairly nicely.
And I think people like Peter could benefit from sight reading modern music more. Literally taking it apart and looking at the scores and seeing how it's put together helps to appreciate it when you hear it. He wrote that somebody he knows said that it's probably more pleasant to play than to listen to it, right? So which means that he needs to play it more, just simply.
Yes.
And then he will be able to appreciate modern music too. I'm not saying he should go on modern music diet
Oh
for
no,
a month,
definitely not.
but just to be to include some pieces in your sight reading menu would be
Yes,
helpful.
and another thing I think, that organists who perform only modern music make a large mistake. I think we are losing audience, because if you want to play modern music, it's okay, but you have to keep a right proportion. And for example, if you are planning a recital, and it's an hour long, for example, I would suggest that your modern music wouldn't take more than 10, well, at the most 15 minutes of entire recital. And don't play it at the beginning, because audience will leave right away.
You know, it's another very complex question for people who choose to um, voluntarily play only modern music in their repertoire. For example, my friends um, James D. Hicks and Carson Kuman, they are known to perform only pieces that are created recently. James D. Hicks is playing all over the world music from the Nordic countries, and Carson Kuman is a champion for avant-garde music and modern music in general. So you could actually build a brand for yourself of being the one who perform such a music. And I don't think that they worry about losing audience who don't like such music, right? Because it's simply not for them. Don't you think, Osha?
Well, yes and no.
It depends on your goals. If you want to please everyone, then of course playing only modern music doesn't help.
But what about pleasing yourself? For example, I could not just play modern music.
That's why you don't play modern music
I
only.
know, although I like modern music and
Mhm.
I have played it, quite a lot actually.
But then imagine a situation when a person only plays music of composers, not only dead performance composers, but who lived 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 300 or 400 years ago. If everybody would play this, then advancement of organ art would be on a minimal scale. Probably the creativity would diminish in general in organ world, because we would be repeating only museum like performances.
You know, I don't think it would be a huge disadvantage for organ music if no of the new pieces would be written starting from this day on, because there are so many masterpieces written already that you wouldn't be able to play all of them in your entire life, even if you would live for like 200 years long.
This is true. What about for a composer who feels a need to create something, to let it out to the world? What about them?
Well, that's a tricky question. You got me.
So what I meant is everybody needs to be creative in some way, probably to spend our days not only in consuming things but also creating things. Performing music is one of the ways we consume music, and creating music either in written form or in improvised form is one of the creative endeavors. So you could create actually stylistically old-fashioned music if you like it, right? It doesn't diminish your own creativity if you like this particular style. But I think people who create sooner or later become a little bit dissatisfied with repeating old styles. They want to create something which have never been created before.
Nowadays there are so many composers that I think you will get lucky if after you compose a piece, somebody actually will perform it. You don't get much chance of that, knowing how competitive this field is.
Oh, this is another question, probably too broad to answer today, but for this global world when everybody can create and everybody can share, and many people are doing this, so it's getting more crowded every day, right? This global world of music. So then the only way to get noticed is to actually to stand out, to not follow where everybody else is going, but to lead, to do your own thing, to find your own voice.
And what I could suggest for Peter, for example, if he decide to play some modern organ music, choose that modern organ music which was composed by organist composers, because actually we know how to treat instrument well.
Yes.
Because I have seen many organ compositions that were composed not by composers, organists, and we were just disasters because you can find things that it's impossible to play well on the organ and it sounds bad. But organist composers, that's another thing. We know how to treat instrument well.
What would be the one composer you think would sound perhaps satisfactory enough for Peter, for starters?
Peter Eben, maybe?
Peter Eben?
Yes.
Not too challenging, not too dissonant?
Well,
he is dissonant.
He is dissonant, but he knows how to treat organ.
What about Tournemire?
Yes, too. That's another option.
I'm sight reading now every day from his cycle, Lord Mystique, and I find that some of his meditations are quite simple in structure and very modal, and therefore sound quite sweet. So a lot of French composers also do that modal sweet writing, which you might find helpful too. Thank you guys, this was very interesting. Please send us more of your questions. We love helping you grow. This was Vidas.
And Ausra.
And remember, when you practice,
miracles happen.